And now it's that time of the week again. Time to check out David Holtzford's highlights, top plays from across Alabama from this past week. We open this week's AHSAA highlights segment with a Shelby County battle between Class 6A Pelham and Class 7A Chelsea. The Panthers needed just 3 plays to score after a big opening kickoff return into the red zone. Quarterback Clayton Maines keeps for 14 yards for the opening touchdown. Later in the first quarter, Maines finds receiver Marcus Arnold sprinting behind the defense and sails the ball his way. Arnold caught the pass in stride to complete the 62-yard touchdown play to give the Panthers a 14-0 lead. Pelham's defense jumped into the scoring column when Keyshawn Griffin intercepts a Hornets pass and returns it 65 yards down the sidelines for the score to extend the lead to 21-0. Pelham wins this battle of rivals 27-7 to improve to 3-2 and gets ready for another Shelby County rival game this week when coach Mike Vickery and his Panthers travel down I-65 to Calera for a key Class 6A Region 3 game on Friday night. Next, we head to Andalusia to look in on the Bulldogs of Bibb County in a battle of Class 4A unbeaten teams. Defending Class 4A state champion Andalusia, who's 6-0, took a quick 3-0 lead, and then quarterback Jack Lathrop connects with receiver Parker Adams for a 56-yard touchdown. The Choctaws kick a field goal, and coach Trent Taylor turned to his special teams. Andalusia's Cal Crittenden responds by taking the kickoff at his own 15 and going 85 yards for a touchdown. What a return. We love those kinds of big plays at AHSAA TV Weekly. Bibb County did finish on a positive note, though. Trailing 27-3 in the final minute, the ball is snapped over quarterback Jordan Leverett's head. He runs back, scoops up the ball, and heaves it downfield to a receiver. The ball bounces off the defender into the receiver's hands for a touchdown. Andalusia held on to win 27-10 to extend its current winning streak to 11 in a row. However, don't be surprised if these two teams meet up in the state playoffs later this season. When Westminster Christian and Central Florence met last season, the game finished up 70-69, with Central winning over the Wildcats as both teams combined for 139 points, providing a season full of highlights in just that one game. This year, the point production was slightly down as Westminster escaped with a 71-54 win this time, and just 125 total points made it onto the scoreboard. Westminster quarterback Brandon Mush was in rare form once again, rushing and passing for well over 200 yards for 511 total yards and accounted for 8 touchdowns. The Wildcats' 71 points set a school record, surpassing the 70 put up last year in the 70-42 victory over Madison County. Receiver Henry Claunch led the way receiving with 7 catches for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. Adam Hartman had 3 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown of his own, and Mush rushed for 4 TDs and passed for another 4 as Westminster improved to 4-1 on the season. We close this week's highlights with another look at Clay Chalkville's 36-33 win over 4-time defending Class 7A state champion Thompson. While the game was nationally televised over on ESPN2, we thank the outstanding production team at Thompson for these highlights. Clay quarterback Jalen Mbakwe shows us why he is also a track and field star, finishing with 100 passing yards and 168 rushing yards and accounting for all 5 Cougars touchdowns. After scoring a fourth quarter touchdown that gave Clay the lead for good, he and big 6'9", 370-pound offensive tackle Jaquan McCroy pulled out the trickery on the 2-point conversion with a throwback pass, resulting in a successful 2-point try and a 29-26 Cougars lead. That conversion proved to be just the difference as Clay won 36-33 and snapped the Warriors and Class 7A's longest current winning streak to 8 in a row. Thompson had its moments too, with a long TD pass with 43 seconds remaining, a perfect onside kick, and one final chance to tie with a field goal that was just wide left as the final seconds ticked off the clock in a 36-33 Clay win. The Cougars of Coach Drew Gilmer are 6-0 and have the week off. Thompson is 4-1 and travels to Hewitt-Trussville in a key Region 3 battle with the Huskies, the last team to beat Thompson prior to last week's setback. We hope you enjoyed this week's Holtzford's highlights. Before we sign off, let's top it off with the WOTM TV highlights from last week's Game of the Week and a 14-9 Anniston win over Piedmont. We'll see you next week.
For the second year in a row, the Anniston Bulldogs come to Piedmont and knock off the Bulldogs in a close affair, 14-9. But Kayla Brooks, what was different about this year? Two new coaches, a lot of new players on both sides, but still the same result. It was a very good, hard-fought football game.
Yeah, it was. You got to credit both teams how hard they played. Both offenses, had times where they moved the ball well, and then they kind of got inconsistent as closer they got. But both teams played really hard. Piedmont, they could have quit there towards the end and found a way to keep going and make this a close ball game.
Let's look at the highlights here. Jaden Lewis coming into the game early and completing a big pass there to receiver Jalen McElderry, and then Doss, the starting quarterback for Anniston. Caleb, this is one of the few mistakes he made tonight. It was an interception in the end zone that was returned for a touchdown, but brought back by a penalty, and then Anniston putting the ball on the ground here. Piedmont getting possession. But the story of the night for Piedmont was they were able to get into the red zone, but weren't able to get into the end zone. And here the big pass from Doss to Downey. Jaden Lewis comes along here and sneaks it in for the game's first touchdown.
Yeah, and barely got in. You got to give Piedmont a lot of credit. It was tough sledding up the middle for Anniston tonight, and that's a lot of credit to the Piedmont D-line, those middle linebackers. And after that touchdown, Piedmont able to get a field goal right here to make it a 6-3 ball game, and that's what our score was. We took it to halftime.
Yeah, and heading to the third quarter, Anniston played much better, didn't have the penalties that they had in the first half, and they see the big completion downfield to Downey, and he was able to get it into the end zone. This gave Anniston the separation they needed to go ahead and close out and pick up the win tonight in Piedmont by a final of 14-9.